So let's talk about something we really like, Doomsday Clock. It finished in December, but we're finally getting around to talking about it now because, to be fair, I actually, for whatever reason, didn't have I was a few issues behind. The series is very dialogue heavy. Very dialogue heavy. So reading, just catching up on 6 issues is actually reading 12 issues. Plus the holidays, reading other comics, so on and so forth. But I finally finished reading it. I know you finally finished reading it. And oh my God, I wish I would have finished it sooner, especially before we talked about the Watchmen HBO series. Because we know that wrapped up, that had its own version of wrapping up the Dr. Manhattan story in the Watchmen universe. And Doomsday Clock wrapped up Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan in the comic universe in continuity, or at least we think wrapped it up. We don't know if, it's kind of open-ended a little bit to go forward. But this is how I wished Dr. Manhattan was ended in the HBO Watchmen series. It was so good. Again, this is going to be spoilers because we can't talk about it without spoilers. So I'm just going to get into the meat of it because this hits my geek. I love this. So in a nutshell, by issue 12, it's pretty much all set up. The entire series is basically all set up. You're reading all this stuff. You're like, this is cool, and seeing this and that is cool and whatnot. But what's the end goal? And it all pays off in issue 12. It's a 54-page giant size issue. And we basically learn that, yes, Dr. Manhattan's been messing with all the DC universe. He's been screwing it up. He created Flashpoint, created the New 52. That's why characters like the original Wally West are gone. Superman's parents are dead. Black Canary is no longer dating Green Arrow, so on and so forth. All the countless changes I could mention, right? We find out he's been doing it all as an experiment because his world, after he left, started basically going to war with one another again. In 1992, the world found out that Adrian Veidt was the one who set up the Squid invasion, and they're like, what? It wasn't just, an extraterrestrial thing. You did it on purpose to unite us. Everyone starts bickering. They start falling into war again. And Dr. Manhattan's like, well, we're doomed. We're doomed. No matter what happens, this world is going to kill itself. So he experiments with the DC universe to prove a point that, let's see if that's going to happen with all Earths. But it doesn't. Why? Because the DC universe has Superman. We find out the core of it all. Superman is at the center of every crisis, every world, and because of that, the worlds go on to live and reset because, as the comic says, he is hope. He is the North Star. And I am a big Superman fan. I'm all about the inspiration and hope. That's why I get annoyed with a lot of content we see nowadays where it's always people are bad, people are racist, people are evil. I'm like, yes, that exists and that sucks. But can we talk about the positive though? Because let's talk about the hope and how we could change that and stuff like that. And this did that to where it's you'll always, as horrible as things get, you'll always have, in this case, Superman, which he's being played more as a symbol than a character in the scenario. 100%, you'll always have hope and a beacon of light, a North Star to bring us all back and lead the way to inspire it. I thought that was the most brilliant thing. And because of this, Dr. Manhattan realized that's why my world keeps destroying itself. We don't have that key, that element. We don't have that Superman. So he makes it so, long story short, so by the end of it, he realizes he has to create a Superman for his world to, survive. So he imbues his powers into Mime and Marionette's son and names him Clark. And he's like, hi, my name's Clark. John sent me, which is kind of a double thing because John as in Dr. Manhattan, but John as in Jonathan Kent because he played his father as well. So Geoff Johns did a lot of cool stuff there. It was just great. We brought the JSA back. We got the Legion of Superheroes back. We know there's hope and light for the DC universe. And I just, Superman fan, people can call me Superman fanboy all I want, but I guess I kind of am, but I just love the fact that Superman is that beacon of light. You know what I mean? He is that character that he's not supposed to be relatable. He's not supposed to be relevant. Neil Gaiman said it best when he said he's just supposed to be inspiring. To show people the way. He's almost like a god in that sense. You know what I mean? And any religion, he's supposed to be that character or that being that inspires people to be better. And I'm like, let's all get along.
And I don't even think it's let's all get along. I think it's presenting the idea that we are capable of more.
For sure, yeah.
We're capable of something better. And that's why, him being a symbol of hope, that is the hope, right? That we are capable of something better than what we are. We just have to strive for it. And, he refers to him as the North Star as something for us to look at and then aspire to. So he's Superman has always been kind of a Christ-like figure in DC Comics in that way. But I just, like you, I just loved that they took, that Geoff Johns took this opportunity to bring it all back to, no, this is what we should be focusing on. This is what characters like Superman are about. We have our Batman and our Iron Man and all these different things. What we need, storytelling is missing, is that element. And he wasn't just saying it for the DC universe. He was using this as the opportunity to make his own personal political and social statements, I think, in this comic book series of saying, like, hey, there's a lot of crappy things happening, and it can really feel like it's all going to hell in a handbasket, and there's no hope for any of it. But that's just not true. We're just not looking in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And he was really dealing with, in my opinion, he was dealing with how cynical we've become as a society in a lot of ways. And he was dealing with that cynicism head on through Dr. Manhattan and Superman there at the end. Like you said, it was a lot of setup, and I wasn't even sure where it was all headed because there was so much happening. And, I told you like about 5 issues in, I'm just like, it just feels like it's kind of plodding along.
For sure.
Because there was just so much dialogue and it was so much setup going on. And I said, okay, we're halfway through this thing, and I still don't know where he's taking it. Mm-hmm. But when it did the train finally pulled into station, you were like, that's genius.
Yep.
It was so refreshing, and it was just, it felt like, especially considering the times that we're in, it very much felt like something that's like, yes, that.
For sure. And it was genius on so many levels, too, because it says a lot because it's almost like over the years he grew as a person himself, because at a few years ago, when this story was being written and when the New 52 happened, Geoff Johns was the chief creative officer of DC Comics. So he spearheaded the New 52, which created a lot of the problems and did create that cynicism in DC Comics where Superman wasn't necessarily that beacon of hope the way he's supposed to be anymore. And he's, all the changes everyone didn't like. So he saw that, like, in himself, just even like in real life, he must have, because he spearheaded that and wrote this book, that like, hey, I realized that this isn't the characters we grew up with. Like, my bad. So he gave the Rebirth one shot that set up all of Doomsday, and it basically just says, in the DC Rebirth one shot, even says we lost our way, we lost hope, we lost our love,
we lost our heroes.
Yes, all that stuff, and it's like it says a lot that like he's almost writing like everything he came to realize through the New 52 and seeing the way the audience was taking to it. And he's like, oh, you're right, this isn't even the heroes I grew up with and stuff like that. So we fixed it all, and it played out perfectly on that level. As almost like an apology in a way, but also within the continuity, because I love the idea of still keeping the past relevant, not erasing, not forgetting about it, but recognizing the bad stuff that happened and fixing it going forward. It's like, we fucked up, but we could be better, we could change. And he did that like both within the continuity of the fictional world and in the real world, which was really, it says a lot to his writing abilities. He's always been one of my favorite writers. And just like how deep he is in the continuity of DC lore, like to tie the JSA, Superman's parents, Superboy, Legion of Superheroes, all these characters from years and years ago that I haven't even read much of, because a lot of them were before I was even born, and you can't read everything, and to tie it all in and make it make sense chronologically within real world and continuity and just all work to go forward. That's a lot, man. That is hard to do.
With much of it happening in one single issue.
Dude, yes, for sure. It's crazy.
He not only righted the ship and corrected all these things and basically restored all these things that he had broken, essentially, with New 52 and all these things. He not only corrected all those things, but he also set a course going out to all the way in the storyline, all the way to 2030.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, he not only righted all that and brought everything back full circle, back to point one, but he also stretched everything out, all surrounding one common thread that Dr. Manhattan clearly lays out, which is that in all cases, the one guiding force will be Superman. Mm-hmm. The one commonality that all of these timelines, all of these alternate universes will have is that they will have a Superman that will be the center, the core of hope, that no matter what happens, no matter what darkness comes, this is the one thing that will push everybody and move things in a positive direction. And I just think
it's enough to bring a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it's just so cool. And
no, it's
to your point about, the past and the importance of the past, we do not appreciate history enough now. We don't know enough about our history. We don't appreciate it enough in the sense of us looking at it not so much in the way of an accusatory standpoint. We think our pulling up history, whether it's recent or distant, is just our means of just accusing people right now and just making it some sort of like a point of like, see how horrible we are and things are, right? That's not what history is for. History is for us to look back on it from an informational standpoint, to draw the lessons from it, but from a center of positivity and hope of, we're going to learn from this so that we can be better, so we don't repeat these things.
100%.
And that was, again, at the heart, I think, of what he was trying to get to. That's that hope, that positivity, that optimism, that pure optimism as our driving force, not this dark cynicism that we're just feeling at the core of everything that's really just weighing everyone down anymore.
And that's why I love it so much. I mean, because again, in the real world, Action Comics #1, 1938, I believe, Superman. It's 1938, 1939, late 1930s. Action Comics #1, first costume, like Superman kicked it off.
Yeah.
Like without Superman, there is no DC universe as we know now. There's no Batman, there's no Wonder Woman, there's no Justice League. Like he's the guy. So he has to be the core of it all. Like love him or hate him, he's the guy. And there's this really cool beat in the final issue where Dr. Manhattan tells Superman's like, look, I took away all your loved ones. I took away people you looked up to. I killed your parents.
Right.
And it cuts to Superman. You see him pissed. Heat vision all fist up. He's like, oh, Superman's going to go to town, Dr. Manhattan. And then, the panel set up to where we think he's going to punch him right in the face. Dr. Fate is going to accept it. And it pulls out. And Superman, when the guy just told him he changed everything in the DC universe, he killed his parents, Superman is actually defending Dr. Manhattan, punching someone who was attacking Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
And Manhattan's like, I'm confused. What's happening? And, Superman's basically like, look, man, I don't know who you are, what you're doing, but we got to fix things here. Like, I see that you're making pictures of this girl with every time you take a footstep. Clearly, it's someone you love. Maybe you make the choice where you do save everything. Because he's a god. He can. Yeah. He could do anything. He has been changing things. So he's like, maybe you just got to make that decision, man. And freaking Superman is the one who inspires Dr. Manhattan, who's more powerful than even him. Like, so it's like, even Dr. Manhattan himself is the one admitting all of this. Like, no, yeah, I'm a god and all, and I could change time and be everywhere at once, but Superman's the guy, which is why I constantly say Superman is the strongest power. Superman is the strongest superhero.
He even says, for the first time, I'm inspired.
Right, yes.
That's actually a line from Dr. Manhattan in the final issue. And what Superman brings it in that scene, Superman brings it all back to where he says, look, it doesn't matter what you did. It matters what you choose next.
It's so good.
And it's just so those are the things that's the kind of inspirational storytelling that can have a really positive impact. We already know about all the dark stuff. There's crappy stuff happening. Yes. But we need voices that will start turning things towards, but what's the actual solution? What's the root of these problems, and how do we begin to move forward in a way that's positive and is reaching towards something greater, instead of us just getting in this gigantic hamster wheel? And the way that he addressed it and used this story and to do it at the end, it was absolutely, in my opinion, it was jaw-droppingly inspiring.
I'm going to go on record and say, I don't remember the last time I read a comic book that left this big of an impact on me. Like, really? No joke. Like, the fact it was, because I think it even hits me more personally, because like, even in writing, working on my own stuff, I'm all about that. Like, let's show people how they can be better. That's why I like superheroes. Yep. Like, why would you? That's why we like superheroes, because they are the idealized version of us, of humanity. Right. Like, we wish we could be that. Right. So, and this like sum that up in the fact that, like, no matter how dark things get, there's always going to be hope and light, and that Superman is that, and it can inspire someone, a god, Dr. Manhattan. Dude, I actually might say this is my favorite comic of the decade, and time will tell if it's one of my favorite, of all time. It probably will be top 10 at least. But again, I read lots of comics and I can't remember. Well, I can remember a few, but this is definitely top 3. Like, this hit me hard. I'm like, this is good.
That's awesome.
This is really good.
Yeah, it was same. It was very impactful. I thought his method of storytelling, it was a slow burn. But when he brought it home, he brought it hard, and it was really, really, really well done. And
Geoff Johns is doing, it gets me, Batman. Going back. He's doing 3 Jokers.
I know. I'm very curious to see what he does with it.
With Jason Fabok, who's one of my favorite artists currently. Oh man. Just
if I could just say the one thing is, Geoff, could we just get it in less than 2 years? That would be super, super, super great. But the other thing too about, and we'll have to wrap up here pretty quick, but is with the at the end of the Doomsday Clock story, the Superman stuff. It really reminded me of that line from Jor-El in the first Superman film, where Marlon Brando as Jor-El says to Superman when he first gets into the Fortress of Solitude, he says, he's talking about humans. He's like, I sent you to Earth. He says, because there's greatness in them.
Yes.
They long to be. They hope to be. Right? And I might not be quoting it exact,
no.
but just paraphrasing.
Right.
He says, there's something in them that's different, and they long to be better. That's why I sent you there, to show them the way. And I was like, that is Superman.
Even in that bit in the Man of Steel, they do that a little bit too when he's the first flight, when he's learning to fly for the first time. Dude, yeah, that is Superman. And that's why when people say, how are we going to make Superman movie work? It's like, again, Neil Gaiman said it best. Just make him inspiring.
Just make him inspiring.
Just have him inspire people, and you're in.